doing today? That's great. That's great. Put your stuff in the comments. Hey, y'all got any questions? Put them down in the comments, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube. Get it down there. I will see it and I'll answer it live. All right. With that being said, this is Ask a Plumber Live. It's exactly what it sounds like. We're live and you ask me questions, I answer them for you. Okay? Anything. This is for homeowners. Okay? Property managers, landlords. If you own a home and you want to maintain the plumbing yourself, or you want to try to fix the plumbing yourself, or maybe you just have a question. You don't want to fix it yourself, but maybe you just have a question about which route you should go with finding somebody to fix it. Those are all perfect topics for me to talk about. And if you just get those down into the comments, then I will answer it live. Also, if you want to come on to the show, let me know, and we'll make that happen. Okay, I can send you a link, and you can hop on the show. Maybe you can show us the plumbing that you have questions about. That would be the best thing to do. All right. Now, while we're waiting on live comments to come in, I do have some questions that we've accumulated throughout the week. And the first one comes from Kevin. All right, Kevin. He says, water is seeping out around the bottom of my water heater and I see rust. Is the tank done? Probably. It probably is. Um, yeah. The rust, the rust doesn't really tell you a whole lot. Your water heater could be perfectly fine and still be rusty. But if you have water seeping out around the bottom of the water heater, especially if it's above the actual footprint of the water heater, like you can see it coming out from above where that water heater meets the floor. Now, if you have water coming out like where the water heater is actually sitting on the platform or the ground, the floor, the crawl space inside your aqua hut, it's possible that it could be a different leak and not the water heater, and you just happen to be seeing the water accumulate around the water heater. But more than likely, it is your water heater, and if it is your water heater tank leaking, then yeah, it's done. There's no fixing that, unfortunately. Nice. All right. Yeah, great question. Next up, we have a question from Ashley. She asks, my water pressure sucks. How do I figure out whether the problem is the whole house or just the fixture? Well, the fastest way to try to figure that out is it just the fixture where your water pressure sucks, or is it the entire house? Every single fixture you go to, you have really bad water pressure. Okay, maybe try running multiple fixtures at the same time, see if it gets even worse. That would be one of the best ways to pinpoint whether it's the whole house or it's just that one fixture. You kind of have to isolate it, do some testing, some process of elimination to try to get it figured out. The other thing you could do, let me find my, oh, here it is, my water pressure gauge. You could put this on one of your outside spigots. It screws right on like a garden hose. Turn the spigot on, and you can read the water pressure that's coming into your home. If your water pressure is below 50, I'd say you probably have some type of issue. If your water pressure is above 80, then you definitely need to call a plumber as soon as possible. But if your water pressure sucks, you probably won't have that issue of having too high of water pressure. And another thing to keep in mind, it might not be your water pressure that's terrible. It might be the amount of water that you can pull from your pipes. Okay, because um, let me grab something real quick. This this is galvanized water line. Okay, and if you look at the inside of this pipe, you can see how there's a bunch of junk inside of there. That's not dirt. That's not mud. That stuff was in there when we pulled this water line out of the ground. Okay, what happens is over time, all that rust starts to accumulate, and the it closes up the water line, and then over time, you just simply can't put as much water through there because it's getting blocked and restricted by all that junk. All right, so we have a comment here. Um, oh, the audio barely audible. Thank you, I appreciate that. All right, I should probably let me pull out my phone here and just test it on my end. One of my kids was probably in here messing around with my stuff. All right, it helps to bring the mic closer to my face too. All right, hopefully that's better. If there's anybody in the that's able to put something into the chat, let me know if that audio is better. Sounds all right on my phone, but I had it right up next to my ear. All right, next question. We got one from Jason. And again, for all the live viewers, just put your plumbing questions in the chat, and I'll answer them live for you. Any plumbing questions that are related to your home, um, get them in there and get them answered. It's always best to get your questions answered live because then I can actually ask you a little bit more about it. Because whenever we get these questions that come in, like Jason has, it's nice to get these, but sometimes I'd like to ask more questions about it to try to pinpoint exactly what may be going on. So he says, my TMP relief valve keeps dripping. Do I replace the valve or is something causing too much pressure? All right, that's a great question. And another, again, it's one of these where I would love to kind of troubleshoot this with you in person live because I would ask you to go get one of these. All right, Jason, one of these that we were just talking about, and you're going to put it on your outside spigot, and you're going to test the pressure on your house because your TNP relief valve might be perfectly fine, but if you have too much pressure coming into the home, then it's going to do its job, and it is going to start to let a little bit of water weep out of that valve as its safety devices. It's supposed to do that. Um, with that being said, it could very well be the TNP relief valve itself that's bad. Um, so TNP stands for temperature and pressure. Whenever the temperature on your water heater gets too hot, it starts to let water come through it. Whenever the pressure on your water heater gets too high, it starts to let water come through it. So it's a safety device on two different metrics. And if it's dripping, the first thing you want to do is test the pressure on your home. Make sure that the pressure inside your home is not too high. The next thing you want to do is check your expansion tank. All right, you have an expansion tank either close to your water heater or somewhere on your cold water line. Now, this is for people that are on city water. If you have a well pump system, then you don't have an expansion tank 98% of the time. There's very few circumstances where you would need one. If your expansion tank is good, then I would say you probably have a bad relief valve or you have a water heater that's heating up too hot. All right, so how do we check an expansion tank? I need to get one in here. Over time, I'm gonna slowly start accumulating all of my stuff in here so that we can do a little bit of show and tell, right? So an expansion tank is it, it's like a man. I really wish I had one in here. All right, so it's a steel tank. It holds about, I don't know, maybe it looks like it could hold about 2.5 gallons or something, maybe 2 gallons. Um, it's about this big around, and it's about that tall most of the time. They do have bigger ones. All right. There's a Schrader valve on your expansion tank. A Schrader valve is the same type of valve that you have on your tire. It's the valve stem itself. It's the thing that you screw or put the air compressor on and pump air into the tire. Okay. An expansion tank has that same thing on it. Okay. And one section of your expansion tank is supposed to be air, and the other section of your expansion tank is supposed to be water. Okay. What you want to do is take the cap off of that Schrader valve and get a knife or a fork or a toothpick, something where you can poke that stem in. All right. You should get a burst of air. Okay. A quick burst of air. Don't do it for too long. You don't want to drain all the air out of it, but you should get a quick burst of air out of that thing. All right. Red flags. If you get water coming out of that stem, you got a bad expansion tank. If you get no air coming out of that stem, you need to either add air pressure to it, but the reality is it lost that air pressure for a reason, so it probably just needs to be replaced. Okay. And what is an expansion tank supposed to be set to? The air psi in your expansion tank needs to be set to the same number that you get whenever you measure the pressure coming into your home. So if I put this on my spigot at my house and it measures 65 psi, then I need to go to my expansion tank when the system is totally depressurized, and I need to put 65 psi of air in that expansion tank. And then I can turn the water on to everything. So it needs the air psi in your expansion tank needs to match the incoming water pressure for your home. All right, next up, we got a question from Melissa. My hot water line has started leaking under slash in the slab. Is it finally time to repipe the house? Yeah, probably. It probably is time. So how old is the home? If your home is over 20 years old, I'd say you're looking at a repipe. Okay. Here's the options. If we were to come out there, here's the options you're looking at. We can either we can cut up the slab, we can expose that leak, we can repair it, and then we can re-pour the concrete back on there, and then you get some new flooring because you probably won't be able to match it. So the bright side is you do get some brand new flooring in the area where we had to cut up that slab. All right. The other option is to repipe that one water line that's going through the slab. Now we could potentially repipe it through the ceiling and drop it down. It kind of depends on the situation. Hopefully, we wouldn't have to tear up the entire slab to be able, cut a channel through 20, 30 feet of slab to be able to replace that water line. That's just not very, it's not ideal. Your other option, your third option would be a whole house repipe. Um, Recommended? Yes, I recommend if you already have a leak in the slab and the house is over 20 years old, probably should just go ahead and get that whole house repipe done. With that being said, it is a lot of work and it's not inexpensive. And the best way to do it would be to pipe the water lines through the ceiling and drop them down for the first floor, or just stub them up to the second floor. Another thing, if it's galvanized pipe that's leaking under the slab, There really is no repairing that. I mean, there is some options where you can put a patch on it, but it's not worth it. If you're going to cut up the slab, then don't just put a patch on it. Go ahead and get it fixed the right way with a more permanent solution. The downside to galvanized pipe is you can't just cut it and tie back onto it. Um, you have to find a threaded spot to unthread it. Well, then once you start unthreading it, it's so old that galvanized pipe, it starts to just kind of fall apart. So when you're talking about leaks on galvanized piping, it can really be a can of worms. It's one of those situations where you almost have to just go ahead and repipe the entire house. Because if you do try to make the spot repair on galvanized, and let's say you try to unthread the pipe from the T or from the 90 and it just breaks, well, now you can't really turn the water back on until you get until you find a threaded connection that's not going to crumble on you, and most of the time there is none. So you're essentially in a situation where you can't really turn the water back on until you repipe the whole house, and that's for galvanized pipe. All right. Next question, we have one from Brian. Why does the same drain keep clogging even after I've had it cleared? Are you using flushable wipes? Are you using flushable wipes? Okay, because they're not flushable. All right. Just don't flush wipes. I'm not saying that's why yours keeps clogging, but that's the first thing that comes to mind. Is maybe it does keep clogging because something's going down the drain that's not supposed to be going down the drain. Okay, grease, toys, scissors, hygiene products, um, roots. Okay, we dealt with roots. Well, we actually haven't made the repair yet. On Monday, one of my guys, Nick, he went out to a home and cleared a stoppage, put the sewer machine down there, didn't quite get it uncleared or didn't quite break the clog up enough, so he upgraded to the jetter. He ran that jetter in there, busted up that clog, got the thing flowing, and then put the camera in there to see what the issue was. All right. Well, he puts the camera in there and he finds roots inside of the sewer line in the yard. All right. So what we have to do is we have to go. Um, Basically, if you have roots in your system, you got like I'd say like three different options, three or four options here. All right. The first thing you could do is just pay a plumber to come out every 6 months to a year to continue busting that root ball out of there, um, with a mechanical drain machine. Your next option would be maybe pay a plumber to come out there and run a jetter once a year, because a jetter will be able to get more of the roots out of there. It will actually cut the roots and flush them down the line. But the reality is the roots are still there. The jetter is not going to get rid of the roots. It's just going to cut them shorter. Okay. So over the course of a year, that root ball is going to come back. You're just going to end up getting more roots in your sewer line, because once they find that water, I mean, they're always going to be going to it. All right. Your third option would be, um, you could potentially get it cleared one time and then use foaming root killer. Okay. But it's chemicals. It's not best for the sewer system. Definitely not best for your septic system if you're on septic. And it is chemicals, and you do have to use it like once a month. It's a pain in the butt. You got to flush it down there, and then you got to wait like 12 to 24 hours to let it kind of dissolve those roots. It's definitely a temporary thing, it's not a long term solution. The long term solution there would be to dig it up and make a patch repair wherever those roots are coming in, cut that pipe out of there, put brand new pipe in there, and then you're good to go. All right, so that roots is one of the main reasons that drains keep clogging over and over again. Some of the other reasons would be it's not vented properly. All right, if you don't have a proper vent on your drain line, then stuff is just not going to flow like it should. All right. Have y'all ever heard of that phrase? It runs downhill, right? Well, maybe yours isn't running downhill. Okay, maybe yours is doing the roller coaster, and so what happens is the solids, instead of going over the hump, they just kind of settle down in one of those bellies in the line, and now over time you have a stoppage that kind of accumulates over the course of a few weeks, couple months. um, broken sewer lines, that's a big reason. It's cracked. Not only is that gonna eventually roots are just gonna get into that, but that could create, I've seen sewer lines that are kind of like this, and the water is flowing this way. So you can imagine solids are going to hit this, and then it's just going to start to accumulate over time. And that's another reason we see a lot of stoppages. Grease. You definitely don't want to put grease down the kitchen line. But here's the reality of it: grease is going to get down there. You can't stop all of it from going down. So, so basically, um, over the course of like 15 to 20 years, the that drain line is gonna actually plug up with grease all the way to the top. There's some maintenance stuff you can do with that, like pouring really hot water down the drain, like once a week, once a month, or something like that. Um, jetting, jetting a sewer line that is full of grease is a great way to get that thing cleared out for another 20 years. I mean, whenever we run a jetter, we can get that thing squeaky clean. All right, Ralphie. Hey, I appreciate the comment. Do you have tips for new construction slash commercial apprentice? Um, well, what I would say is, do you want to be in new construction and commercial, or would you rather be in residential service? Because um, we're talking about your job, so obviously it's about the money. I'm sure you enjoy doing plumbing, but we go to work so that we can make money. And I will say that there's probably a lot more opportunity to make money in residential service as a service technician, because it's so hard to find guys that are great at dealing with homeowners and creating an amazing experience for homeowners and know how to do plumbing at the same time. It's such a rare thing to find that we're willing to pay a lot of money for that. Um, But if you are committed to new construction and commercial, um, I would say, just study, continue to study. The first thing, as an apprentice, you probably don't have a very good grasp on venting. That's the first thing that I would get a really good All right, there we go. The camera literally just went to sleep on me. Like what is that? Camera just goes to sleep midstream. Come on now. All right. So commercial and construction. Okay. Like I was saying, get a very good grasp on how to vent drain lines. Okay. Um, whether it's the main vent, a stack vent, a Studer vent. I'm sure there's, Studer vents are really common in residential. I'm sure that they're also used in commercial quite a bit. I'm not 100% certain. We don't really do commercial work. We're strictly residential service repair. But with that being said, um, yeah, I would say venting is definitely the first thing that I would look into. Don't go too crazy with all the tools, man. You could go wild and spend thousands of dollars on tools, especially in commercial and especially new construction too. I mean, get you some good power tools, Milwaukee, DeWalt, it's good stuff, and but don't get too crazy with it. And again, I'll just hit on, dude. I highly recommend, unless you just love new construction and commercial, I highly recommend trying to get into a service position, running service calls for residential homeowners, and then get really good at talking to people. Other tips for any job is just show up and outwork everybody. Okay. If you can just show up on time and be the hardest worker, you'd be amazed at the amount of doors that's going to open up for you. All right, let's see. I got some other questions here. Um, from Nicole, and my all right, yeah, I mean, my camera keeps going to sleep on me. What are you doing? Come on, dude. Crazy. Camera keeps going to sleep. Why are you doing that? All right. All right, we got one from Ashley. Why is my shower intermittently making a whining noise when in use? Is that our shower? I haven't heard that. Maybe you told me about it, but I don't remember. Um, well, I would look at, it's either going to be your shower head. Maybe your shower head is stuck in between settings. These shower heads that got like the like 5 different settings on it. Or the valve up top. I mean, the shower head in the kids shower, I mean, it's got like 17 different freaking stream settings on that thing. So yeah, I would mess around with those, see if it's causing that whining noise. Or it could be the cartridge, probably the cartridge, but that's a brand new cartridge. I just put that thing in there when I made the video last year. So that cartridge is like less than a year old. It could be the pipes in the wall, but not likely. I'd say it probably has something to do with that cartridge. I don't know. I'll have to take a look at it. Ralphie, you're welcome, man. I hope it works out well for you. Plumbing is a great trade to be in right now. Really, plumbing, HVAC, electrical, we need good workers. All right, so we got a question from Nicole. Why does my kitchen sink smell like sewer gas even though it drains normally? You might have a bad Studer vent, okay? I don't think I have, no, I don't have a Studer vent up here. Yeah, I'm going to start making a list. All right. Bear with me while I'm going to put this into my notes right now. All right. Call it the showroom. Okay. Studer vent. Expansion tank. Anode rod. I want to show y'all a nasty anode rod. I have some water heaters I could pull it out of. Oh, I got a piece of well pump wire that I want to show y'all because it's been rubbed paper thin, and most of the well pumps that we replace, that's I'd say 65% of the well pumps we replace, it probably wasn't the pump itself that was bad. It's the wire that goes from the wellhead to the pump that's at the bottom of the hole. Because over time, through the vibrations and rubbing on the inside of the well casing, it just, every time it hits the inside of that casing, it knocks a little bit of copper off that thing. And over time, that wire gets paper thin. All right. So why does my kitchen sink smell like sewer gas even though it drains normally? I would check your Studer vent, okay? What you can do is take a plastic bag and let's see. There's several ways to do this. I'll tell you the way that this is the way I'd tell any other homeowner to do it. So take some saran wrap or a Ziploc bag and put it over your Studer vent and then tape around the bottom of it. You got to seal it pretty well though. Like you want to make sure you get a really good seal around that thing. Now keep in mind, your drain is probably not going to drain very well whenever you do this because that Studer vent is supposed to let air into the sewer line when your waste is going down the sewer line. That way it can flow normally. But what happens is the Studer vents, they're supposed to let air in, but they're not supposed to let air out. But what happens over time is they do start to let air out because the little flapper on them, it starts to go bad. So what you can do is put a bag over it and seal it up and see if that smell goes away. Okay. Now it's probably not going to drain very well. And that's going to take, that might take a couple days to like really verify that, okay, yeah, the smell is definitely stopped. The immediate way to know is to unscrew it. Hopefully your Studer vent can screw out just fine. Sometimes plumbers glue them in there. I hate it when they do that, but sometimes they do. So unscrew it and then take it. Now you want to like, I put it in my shirt like this and then flip my shirt over and I do it like that. So that way I don't get nasty stuff all over my mouth. It's still kind of gross, but it is what it is. So you take that Studer vent and on the bottom of it, you're going to blow into it. All right. If you blow through your Studer vent, you should not be able to blow air through it. All right. Now you don't want to pop a lung trying to do this. Okay. Because it's just a thin little membrane inside the Studer vent. But if you just try to blow some air through it, and you can easily blow through it, or you can feel like a little bit of air is going through it, that's probably what your issue is. It's letting that sewer gas out of the Studer vent when it's not supposed to do that. The other thing, you could have a leak. So check in your cabinet and make sure that you don't have a drain leak in there. Maybe it's leaking not into the cabinet itself. Maybe it's leaking below the cabinet. Okay. You want to check it very well to make sure that you don't have any leaks anywhere. You might even want to go into the crawl space or most of them are on crawl space, Sometimes it's a basement, sometimes it's a slab. If it's a slab, then this probably is not your issue. But especially if you're on a crawl space or a basement that you never go into, go down there and check it out. It could have been leaking drain waste, and it could be accumulating in your crawl space, and that's what you smell. You want to get that taken care of before you start to get mold, nasty mold. That stuff can grow very fast. You got to be careful with it. All right, let's see. We got another question here. Let me load it up. Okay. Robert. My water suddenly turned rusty brown after I drained my water heater. What did I do? You probably didn't do anything wrong, okay? This happens at my house as well. It also had, this is how I know that it's time to drain and flush my water heater, okay? Whenever my tub water starts to get like orange and nasty brown, I know it's time to flush my water heater. The other time that you know it's time to flush your water heater is if it's been a year since you did it last time, okay? That's the real indicator that you need to flush your water heater. If you do it like I do it, then you're actually waiting too long. You're being reactive with your water heater flush instead of being proactive. And if you're like most homeowners, you've never flushed your water heater and you just wait until your water heater pops a leak and then you get a new one, and then you never flush that one either. Unless you sign up with our membership plan, then you get it flushed once a year, and you'll probably get a good 20, 25 years out of that bad boy. But what happened whenever you drained your water heater, so maybe you didn't actually flush it, but you drained it down, all right, and then you filled it back up with water. At a minimum, that's what you did. Hopefully you were flushing it, but at a minimum, you drained it down, you filled it back up with water. When you filled it back up with water, you stirred up all that crud that's inside your water heater, all right? And then whenever you turned on your hot water, that's why it was rusty brown, because you stirred up all that junk, and instead of flushing it out into the yard, it's coming out through your fixtures. Now let it sit for a few hours. That should settle down, and you should not get rusty brown water out of your water heater anymore. But then you know that it's just sitting at the bottom. I swear, is this camera about to turn off again? Let me check. I gotta keep this thing awake. All right. Yeah, so if you just wait a few hours, that rusty brown will go away. But just know it didn't actually go away. It just settled to the bottom of your water heater, and that's where it's going to stay until you flush it out. Every single year. Flush your water heater every year. Okay, let's see. I got like three more questions here. Okay. Okay, Jennifer. My whole house filter turns brown within a few hours. Is that rust from my pipes or something in the water supply? Well, whether it's rust from your pipes or it's something in the water supply, I wouldn't be too concerned about the color of your filter. This is one of the things that I don't like about the clear filter housings. Don't look at the color of it, okay? First of all, don't let it go more than 6 months without changing it. Probably 3 is actually a better number, but definitely not 6 months, okay? The reason for that is you don't want stuff to grow on your filter. Second, don't look at the color of your filter to determine whether it needs to be changed or not. You know it's time to change your filter if you're just not getting as much water as you normally do, okay? If you turn on a faucet and the water pressure seems low, if you use multiple fixtures and the water pressure really drops off, that's when you know it's time to change your filter, all right? Now, if it's turning brown within a few hours, it depends. If you're on well water, I'd say it's probably some type of minerals coming from your well. If you're on city water, I don't know. I mean, that'd be a lot of rust to come from your pipes. It would be galvanized pipe, but so it would be galvanized pipe more than likely. If it was rust coming from your pipes making your filter look like that, it would be galvanized. But the thing about this galvanized, this rust in here, I don't know if you can really see it. I don't think we're gonna. Yeah, we're not gonna be able to get a good look at it. But it's not like really loose. Okay, it's pretty hard stuff. All right. So my point is, it's not just like falling off and disintegrating inside from the inside of this pipe. It's pretty tough stuff. I can't even really. I can sort of flake it off with my finger, but it's stuck on there pretty good. All right. So more than likely, it's not from your pipes. More than likely, it's from your actual water supply. And the other thing that, I would say, your filter is doing its job. So might not be a bad idea to get a filter test done. Get one of these kits right here, okay? And it'll tell you all kinds of stuff. All right, I think this is a 16 panel test strip. All right, all kinds of stuff: nitrate, nitrite, total hardness, free chlorine, total chlorine, bromine, MPS, copper, iron, lead, nickel, sulfite, cyanuric acid, carbonate, and total alkalinity. That's a lot of that stuff sounded pretty nasty. All right. For my homeowners on city water, I highly recommend that you get a filtration system. Just if you don't have a filtration system, basically, I recommend don't drink your water, don't bathe in the water, don't take a shower in the water. And if you wash your hands in that water, then all those chemicals are still getting into your skin through your hands. All right. I know it sounds crazy, but that's how it is. Okay. If you're on city water, you really need to get a filtration system. I mean, even more so than people on well water, honestly. Because well water, I mean, I don't know, all these fertilizers in the ground and everything, it's not good either. But at least with well water, you have a pretty good chance of having clean ground filtered water. You might have a lot of minerals in it, but more than likely you're not going to have a bunch of chemicals. Now, if you're on city water, you have chemicals in your water. There's no doubt about it. Okay. Oh, nice. We have a expansion tank question. All right, David. Thank you for the question. He asks, do I really need an expansion tank on my water heater? It totally depends. If you're on a well pump system and there's not a check valve between your water heater and your well pump tank, okay? If there's no check valve, then No, you do not need an expansion tank because your pump tank is essentially a really big expansion tank. Okay. Now, if you have a check valve between your pump tank and your water heater, then you can totally omit that pump tank from being able to function as an expansion tank. It won't do it. So you would need an expansion tank on your water heater. All right, now if you're on city water, yes, you absolutely need an expansion tank on your water heater. So what does an expansion tank do? Basically, when water heats up, it expands in volume, okay? If you're on city water, when that water passes your water meter, it's not going back to the city side. There's a check valve. It ain't going back, all right? It has to go this way towards your house and out of a fixture somewhere or out of a leak, all right? Whenever you heat that water, it expands in volume. If there's nowhere for that extra volume of water to go, instead of expanding in actual volume, come on now, what's this? This camera is a mess. All right, instead of expanding in volume, it's going to expand. It's going to increase in pressure. Okay, so that's what an expansion tank is for. That's why you need it on your water heater, so that instead of that hot water increasing the pressure on your system, your expansion tank takes that extra volume and it takes it into itself. I need to figure out the hand signals on this this camera. It does some crazy stuff. I don't even know. I'm just doing my best here. Try to get it to, I don't know. There's some type of gesture here that will zoom it out. I'm not getting it figured. That's all right. I'll just adjust. There we go. Beautiful. All right. Okay, last question here. Let me get it loaded up. All right. My water heater supply connection is leaking. Can I just replace the gasket or connector, or does the piping need to be redone? Okay. Your water heater supply connection is leaking. All right. If it's a solid connection, there is no gasket. Okay. The connector, I would say, is probably the fitting. I don't know. I got to look at it. I need pictures. Yeah, I mean, if I would say the piping needs to be redone. Honestly, I mean, I'm trying to think of a situation where you would just replace the gasket or the connector, but let's be honest. Your water heater should be hard piped. If you have one of these flex lines off on your water heater, then it was done cheaply. Okay, it needs to be hard piped. Whether if it's a gas water heater, it needs to be copper coming off of that thing. Okay, not a flex line. It needs to be rigid copper line. If it's an electric water heater, PEX is fine, CPVC is fine, but it needs to be hard piped. It's just going to last a lot longer. So if you have one of these flex lines, it's like a corrugated looking thing, or it's like a thick stainless steel braided supply line for your water heater, and that's leaking, do away with it, hire a plumber, and tell that plumber you want it hard piped. Okay, that's going to be the best way to do it. All right, so that's all the questions I have. I'll wait just a little bit longer for some comments that might come through, but I appreciate everybody for tuning in tonight. And if you haven't done so already, hit the like button. If you're on Facebook, share this out. Share it out for next week. Okay, I'll be here Wednesday, 7:30 next week. All right, that day may change, but for now, it's going to be Wednesday, 7:30. EST. I'm on the coast. I'm on the eastern side. So share it out to your friends and just let them know, hey, if you have any questions about your plumbing, this is the place to come to get them answered. Okay. And hit the subscribe button if you're on YouTube. Hit that bell icon, because whenever I go live every single week, I want you to get notified. That way, if you have a question, ding, 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 I got to get on here and ask this question because it's been bugging me all day or all week. All right. Another thing you can do is submit your questions into the comments. Okay. Even if you put it into the comments of this video, what I'll do is I'll include it on the next video. All right. You can send us an email. You can even go onto our website and submit a question there. The cool thing about our website is you can even submit pictures and videos of your plumbing situation. All right. So every Wednesday night, 7:30 p.m., I'll be here, and I'm excited to see y'all on the next one. And y'all enjoy the rest of your week.